Okay, in this video we're going to discuss coves on coastlines, and a great spot to start is the Øresund Channel on Denmark. And so these coves right here are a feature that we find all over the world. They can also be shaped a little bit more like this, and they're commonly found next to expansion bars. An expansion bar is a feature that a current makes when it's compressed and then expands afterwards. So this, because of this triangular shape here, it tells us that this area right here was a channel that was compressed where water was focused, and as it passed through that area, it was able to expand outward. Okay, so how does a feature like this form on a coastline? You can see a river that kind of leads into it, and the topography of this line here and this line here are a clue. But in order for us to really understand it, we're going to look at other locations. Here we also see kind of like a river terrace, almost like a river terrace edge. So let's check out another location. This is an island near Fiji. Right, Fiji's over here, Australia. So this island is super cool. What I love about this island is you've got an incredibly straight river channel that's got straight river banks on either side. Right, so this would be the river bank, and we can follow this channel. We can follow it right offshore, and we can see how it lines up perfectly with this cove that then also has somewhat of an expansion bar feature. But the real mystery is, why is this edge so straight? So why is this edge here so straight? And it is slightly curved, but for the most part it's pretty straight. This one's more curved. Whoops. This one's a little bit more curved. And then here we find the same thing, right? This feature, you go to any coastline or any body of water, you're going to find these. So what's the deal with them? Well, from our spot near Fiji, we can see that we can imagine this being a river that, seeing how it goes this direction and kind of disappears, right? You can still see the bank right here, but it really just kind of disappears, and you don't really see anything. That kind of looks like, you know, these could be river banks, but nothing really strong or clear to see where this river came from. Now, because it's straight, a straight river means a swift current. So it's not lollygagging around, turning and meandering. It's going in a straight line. That indicates a swift current. And so a swift current thus made this cove that had an expansion bar. Next to it, we find other coves. This is a triple formation that then also have that slight expansion bar. Here's another one. Kind of, we get this scour here, streamlined feature here, somewhat streamlined feature here, and then the expansion bars. So all of these all of these features, this streamlined one in particular, tells us the direction that a current washed over this island here. And of course, you can see all sorts of features of current in this area. So let's keep going. Now this is the North Channel in the Irish Sea, Ireland, England, Scotland. Okay, North Channel here. We find the same feature. Okay, cove, expansion bar-ish, straight, slightly rounded. And then we've got this feature that leads in here. And then here we find a nice expansion bar that's got a little bit more of a turn in it. Okay. And then here we've got a streamlined feature, just like what we saw in the Pacific, where the water went around either side of this, sculpted it away, and streamlined it. Okay. Now this is Malta in the Mediterranean. Same deal, right? You guys can recognize these features now. Here we can really see the channel. It's a good example of the channel. We got the cliff edges here, and that channel ran right through here, and it went right into this cove, which makes a perfect place to anchor your boat. That's what a cove is. All these coves, basically every cove, is this feature to some degree. And there's plenty of features underwater that indicate offshore currents as well. Here, these are much smaller, indicating a slightly different direction, more offshore-ish. All right, a little bit of a streamlined feature here. Look at this. This is a scour right there. And then, of course, this whole thing here is a big streamlined feature. And you can kind of get a good current direction off it. It kind of probably faced in like this and went around either side like that. And then this is streamlined as well. And that was the Mediterranean. Now we're in, this is North Japan. Got Japan right here, Russia. So what I like about this location is you've got the cove and you've got that scour that leads right into it here as well. And then you can see the channel from the channel banks, river banks. Here's another one. This looks like a salt deposit, which makes a lot of sense. The ocean's right there. And then this one here is a good one. You can see kind of an expansion bar here. That leads right into this cove. And it kind of looks like that's a ripple formation. Let's see how big it is. Measure the wavelength, 28 feet. So pretty decent, nothing insane, but that shows a current washed right through there. Okay, now this is where the features start to get big and impressive. So we're on the Yucatan now. And this feature really pops out from far away. There's another double shallow cataract. So a cataract is basically the feature a waterfall makes. It makes kind of a rounded U-shaped. But when it forms super shallow, it preserves the same feature. It's just, the water didn't free fall, so it wasn't a waterfall, but still the same feature. So this spot's cool because you've got streamlined mounds. Massive streamlined mounds too, by the way. Almost a mile wide, wow. And this mound actually looks pretty tall, I don't know. Let's see how tall it is. Keep in mind, mounds are the most widespread geologic mystery. But here it's quite easy to see how they were of fluvial origin. So 14 meters on the top, 16 meters, 2 meters. Oh, right here it's 26 meters, 24. So it's about a 20 meter tall mound, pretty decent. But all of these mounds here show how the water that formed these cataracts and washed over the land shows exactly the path based upon, you can interpret the path based upon the way the mounds are streamlined and the ruts in between them. Right, you can see where it went. Very cool. And so, yeah, basically these mounds are showing that water washed right into this channel here, washed right into this channel here, washed right into this valley here, scoured out this feature, and scoured out these circular features, which in some cases can be called cenotes, and cenotes can form in lines, right? So this is a line here. So the shallow cenotes that aren't actually, really cenotes, because, a cenote is more of a cave system. But if you were to call these cenotes too, these are basically shallow scours in the land. Over here we see parallel ruts. That's a feature of sheet water flow because the water was, very close to each other. Or these ruts are very close to each other, which is indicative of sheet water flow. Let's zoom in, find some scours. See if we can find some cenotes. Now some scours in here. We find some mounds here. Then we kind of get the lines of scours, sometimes called cenotes. Right. So yeah, all of this area is kind of rutted out from sheet water flow. So now that we know that, we look at these shallow scours, or shallow cataracts, the mounds that are streamlined, and they also line up with these current ruts, which are river ruts made by the water that made all of these features. And these, believe it or not, but these right here are called cenotes. And they're water scours from water turbulence. And then here we see all the river terraces, right? So when the river was up to this level, it's not just saying that the water was at this level, but the water was moving like a current, like a fast current to shape this. Because if water's just at a level, like let's say this was a lake, what you would find, you wouldn't find a terrace, you would find an accretion ridge, which is like a berm. A terrace is formed with a fast moving current because it actually has to excavate bedrock and level the land. So, terraces are not accretion ridges. Terraces aren't just saying where the water level was, it's saying where the current was. Okay, that's important when we talk about some places in Scotland, which we'll get to. And then here we also have that same feature we've been studying. And then we've got the scours that line up into the features we've been studying, which I call shallow cataracts. But no one else really talks about it, so I get to make up names. It's fun. All right, let's go to the next spot. Okay, now we're in Scotland. Good old Scotland. So we got our double cataract feature. We've got the river that runs into it, the nice wide straight edges, which are called escarpment edges. And then we've got, this looks like a little piece of Monterey Bay right here because Monterey Bay has that little winding river that goes right in the middle of its two straight scarp edges. Okay, and then we go over here. Or let's maybe see if we can find some terraces. So all this land here was eroded by water and not glaciers. Don't have terraces there, but trust me, there's some good terraces up here in Scotland. And then so we can see this one here, more of an expansion bar edge on this side, more of a straight transitioning into curved escarpment edge on this side. It has to do a lot with the underlying rock, which, features are easier to form based upon what needs to get eroded away. But what's interesting, this whole feature here, if you look at the whole thing, then you see that this is a big expansion bar. And you can kind of barely see some marine canyons in here. And then you see these are little pieces of the marine canyons. So this is actually a lot like Monterey Bay, where you've got the shallow cataracts and the underwater debris flows making the marine canyons. Okay. Now, just look at this here. This straight edge is a part of the Great Glen. Supposedly a rift valley, although there has been zero evidence of a earthquake that actually shows any movement. This is apparently an inactive fault. So they literally have zero actual evidence that this is ever moved across. They just think that because of how straight it is. But I actually think it's an erosional feature. I mean, if you look at South America, it's full of straight-lined ruts and all over the world. But what really gives this, and also, I just showed you the Yucatan, similar feature here. But what I think really gives it away is if you can find some nice marine terraces or river terraces or whatever you want to call them. So let's find a place called, where is it? Okay. The parallel roads of Glenroy. Now, this isn't it here, but that's like an actual parallel road made by man, okay? So that's the man-made parallel road, and now we're going to find a natural parallel road made by a swift water current. Where are you? I'm going to find you. There she is. The parallel roads of Glenroy. So, like I said about accretion ridges and marine terraces, river terraces rather, they're not the same because if you look at this area here, it kind of looks like an accretion ridge here. Maybe that location is. But there's some places on this where it's definitely a marine terrace, or river terrace, where it's you can see the flatness of the land. For example, here you can see that this is a river terrace and that this is a river terrace. Now, this also higher up is a river terrace. Now, if you were then to go all the way up to here and say that this is also from a water current, then you could. Now, the current consensus is that this is actually from glacial meltwater that backed up and made it like a lake. But where's the terminal moraine? Right here, we can see it around here. So if a glacier plugged this up and got stuck, even though water bores through ice like nobody's business, it loves to drill a hole right through ice. It's very good at that. But there would be, let's say the ice dam was somewhere around here, right? It only gets more open as we go farther over here. So that wouldn't really be a good spot. It needs to be choked off somewhere. So let's say it'd probably be here. You would imagine a big old berm pushed up called the moraine from that ice. And we just don't find that anywhere. So that's a good key bit of information, or lack of information, or I guess lack of expectation for it being anything to do with glacial meltwater, but more of a current that washed through here. Now, the current's right there. Then this could also be from water flow. Okay, let's go to my favorite spot in Australia. Here we've got the coves, 1 cove, 2 cove, double shallow, cataract, water flowed through here. These are horizontal forms, right? If we can interpret this as the current going this way, then this would be a form horizontal to the water current. What sort of feature forms horizontal to sheet water flow? That's called a ripple. This ripple here is almost a mile in wavelength.